Welcome to the brand new Adventure Built World headquarters. Isn't this thing huge? I've got Super Duty on this side and Taco Supreme on this side, both running Next Jump Outfitter flatbeds, and they are big rigs and they fit in here quite nicely. Now we get a lot of snow, like 6 feet of snow per winter up here in Northwest Montana, so I need a place to keep everything out of the weather. This container has done a great job all winter long. However, the snow load on this will actually over time crush the top of this container because there's no structure on top to hold that much weight. So I decided this would be the next step in the evolution of storing all the Adventure Built goodness. And this is definitely going to allow me to have a lot more storage space for all these vehicles for all winter long. And I'm not really driving them in the snow. They can sit here nice and protected. Now these shipping containers are absolutely amazing at storing gear. They are weatherproof, they're also rodent and insect proof, and it's lockable. Just a great place to store a lot of gear. Now, as you can see, I have quickly outgrown this 20 foot by 8.5 foot tall shipping container. I have a lot of gear, and that is why we got a second container that is going to allow us to have double the capacity to store all the adventure gear as well as all the tools for doing these projects. Now, everyone thinks the shipping containers are completely bulletproof, that you can just bury these in the ground and you can just put a bunch of snow on them and they'll be fine. However, that's not really the case. The corrugated sides, the top, they're just real thin gauge sheet metal that's got this shape to it to kind of give it some structure, but over time it can warp. If you walk on this when we're building it and you're walking on it, the whole thing waves a lot because, again, the main structure of it is the corner posts. So last year, with us getting just over 6 feet of snow, it started to kind of warp a little bit. So this is basically a permanent solution to that snow load that we get up here in the Great Northwest. Now we're going to geek out a little bit on how I kind of made it, some of the pointers on if you're going to recreate a shipping container garage at your place, and just some of the fine detail work of things you just don't hear a lot that I had to learn from doing it myself. And by the way, I did do this myself. It was me, my good buddy Joe, and my oldest son. We did this in about 2 weeks. Obviously, the original container was pre-existing. Staying on the structure, I built that last year on a gravel pad. Everything else we had to build out, and it actually went really easy. Like I said, everything started with this container right here, which is the original container that I bought last year. And I really thought this was going to be a one and done storage solution. I really didn't plan on this whole structure going above it and it being weight supporting. So I kind of sort of leveled it. So I had to go back and re-level the whole thing, making it absolutely perfectly level, both front to back and side to side. Obviously, it was perfectly level side to side, but the back was a little low. So I had to lift it up using these jacks, bottle jack holders that you can buy on Amazon. They just kind of notch into the end post. You lift it up, I put some block underneath there to give it a really good flush level surface to build the rest of the structure. And this container is 20 foot long, 8.5 foot tall, 8 foot wide, which is a standard box. We also opted to get the single latch on the right side door just because it's really convenient to open up. It's way easier to open than the double latches. I would highly recommend that if you're in the market for a container and you want to do something like this, spend a little extra money for the single. You will not regret it. The next step was to get a lot more gravel to level this whole thing out. My property slopes down towards the river, so I had to raise up this side for the new container about 2 feet, and I wasn't able to get it perfectly level like I wanted it, so I ended up taking a pivot, and my son and I ended up doing 3 foot wide tubes, 5 feet in the ground with steel plates on top. I kind of welded those up myself. They're a 1/4 inch plate, and I want to say it's 1 foot by 1 foot with 4 pieces of 1/2 inch rebar welded to the bottoms and then set into the concrete. They were super stable. It was definitely a challenge to get everything leveled out, but once it was perfect. Then we got the second shipping container. And by the way, both containers were right around $5,000, $4,800. We bought one this year, one last year, and the price is a little different. I think they're coming down a little bit, but yeah, it was about 10 grand for both of them, which is not bad, especially for being up here in Montana. We're nowhere near a shipping area, so obviously things are coming from a ways. And a pro tip to having these on posts is have your gravel flush with the post, but not protruding above. Otherwise, you'll have leveling issues. But then once you have this setup, such as I have it here, you can have the container actually dropped off and placed on the plates. A good driver can actually place them exactly where you want them. And then I use the tractor just to basically perfectly center them exactly where I wanted them on the plates, and obviously level and flush with the front of the other one. And I've got a 26-foot gap between the boxes. And I chose a 26-foot gap so that I had a lot of room to get these vehicles in here. Obviously the Super Ute is a big truck and Taco Supreme is no slump. So being able to get a bunch of big rigs in here is just super beneficial. I also chose a really high roof. Again, to get anything large in here, if I get a Sprinter van down the road, I've got plenty of room. Going in order of the build, once I got the boxes 26 foot apart, I ordered the trusses, and there is a 20-foot span, which makes it 11 trusses, and they are 26 feet, 9 inches wide to take up for the 2x6 structure of the top of the wall on both sides. And those came in at, I wanna say, right around $2,200. I'll put the price up here just to verify that, but it actually wasn't bad. And that was having them delivered and flying them up with a guy helping us out, kind of work through the whole process, because we'd never done this before. So it was both pretty new and a little intimidating to have these massive trusses being hung. But honestly, it was super easy once we got the process down. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Before the trusses arrived, obviously I had to build the walls, the long wall and the short wall that the trusses are mounted to. The tall walls are 4 foot tall. The little walls are 2x6s stacked on top of each other. And that's basically just a place for the short cover over the connex to get mounted to. I had a really hard time figuring out exactly how I wanted to mount everything to the container. Do I want to clamp it to the sides? Did I want to bolt it through? Do I want to drill into these nice and sealed containers? And I came to the idea that since it's all going to be under roof, and if I seal it really well, I can just drill through it and it's going to be really secure. There's a lot of whiz-bang ways to secure it on there, but on a budget, this was just the friendliest way for me. So what I did was I sawed down 5/8 inch MDF to make basically a spacer slash structure to span across the whole length of the 20-foot container. And then I bolted through those into the container through kind of the skin of it. Now, because the bottom plates of the walls span across the entire length from structure and skin, I feel like it's going to be a solid situation for this to mount to. I've seen it done a couple of times and it seemed to work out. I get probably more snow load than anyone else, but doing some research, having that spread out across the whole length of the 20-foot container, I feel is going to be nice and solid. I'll let you know after this winter because it's coming right now. Obviously I'm wearing a beanie, so it's happening, but I feel very confident this is going to work out just fine. Now, obviously the end walls for the trusses are 4 foot tall. It's all 2x6, all double reinforced, super, super solid. And that's going to make the entire structure, being that they're 8.5 foot tall shipping containers, that's a 12.5 foot tall to the bottom of the truss height, which gives me a lot of room for anything else in the future that I want to pull in here. Maybe like a large Aussie Sprinter van. We'll see what happens. And a pro tip, if you're going to build something similar to this with a double roof on both sides over the shipping containers to give yourself as much usable space between them, definitely don't add all the lateral supports where your roof is going to go onto before the trusses come, because you're going to do a lot of walking back and forth to be able to hang these, and you're definitely going to want as much room as possible. Like I said, there's 11 trusses. They all get hung and you have to do that yourself. So there's a lot of going up into the pitch of the roof structure to tie everything together and make sure it's nice and square and solid. So yeah, don't put all the end structures in until the very end. You'll thank me later. So you can see here that there's 3 main roof structures. You have the main roof here that is attached to the trusses, and then you have these 2 side roofs that are over the shipping containers, and that's on purpose. One is that it's actually easier to build it this way, having them displaced of the main roof, because that way you can tie it into the walls and it's just going to be a more stable wall instead of just an extension of that roof. And 2 is it just looks better. I think it looks more like a traditional barn. I think at some point we might fill this little fascia parts and these side parts in. That's going to be a down the road thing, but I think it looks cool. What do you guys think? Once the trusses are set, we went through and added all the supports within the truss system to give it the engineered stability it requires. And then we went through and added 2x4s on their sides to the attached to steel too, and they basically got spaced out top to bottom every 2 feet, and then obviously one strand on the bottom. And they went through and added all the lateral supports for the roofing for the shipping container, both sides, and then added the 2x4s on their face as well for that steel to attach to. Then we came back, laid all the steel, everything went on great. It was super square. Black is beautiful. Did all the edge trimming. Also, I don't know if you notice right here, there's actually a 2-foot overhang on the front and the back, and that's added in after the fact, just to add a little extra coverage on the front, like an eave on the front and the back of the container, just to have a little bit more protection. I'm gonna go through right here and kind of put out all of the cost related to this entire structure. And that's obviously doing the work myself with, again, my buddy Joe and my oldest son. We went through, we knocked this out in about 9 to 11 full days. I'd have to go back and check the calendar, but it was pretty full days of a lot of work. I'll go through real quickly the steps and kind of the cost related. So the first one is gonna be the site prep. It's gonna be gravel, concrete, the metal plates, which I made myself. If you buy them, they're gonna be a lot more expensive. The 1/2-inch rebar, the plates go to, but you definitely don't take a shortcut on those plates, because that's what this entire shipping container is attached to the ground to. That way it doesn't move. I also had my buddy Joe bring over his arc welder to weld the shipping container to the plates, which was great. Now it's super solid and never gonna move. For whatever reason, my MIG welder just wouldn't weld it. I don't know if it's a ground issue, but his arc blew right through it, no problem at all. Next is going to be the containers themselves, which I think was right around that $10,000, $11,000 mark. I'll put that exact number right here. They're great. I love these containers. Definitely opt for the single side door. You will not regret it. And the containers themselves are just so useful. Tons of storage. I have 2 more racks on order, and I'm gonna move a lot of the stuff in the one container over to the second container, and then add more things to it that I have in the little tiny garage we have now to clear that space out to make it a little bit more usable. Next is gonna be all the lumber we used to build this thing, and it was actually a ton. I would probably guesstimate we're probably at the $2,000 mark for lumber, because it's all structural, all long dimensional lumber. So yeah, that's just, you can't get around that. That is what it is. The trusses were kind of a fixed cost, which is great. I think it was just over $2,000, and that was an amazing process. I would say definitely, if you're gonna do this and it's your first time, contact your truss builder and ask them if they have a delivery and flying service, and tell them it's your first time. And if they have someone that's pretty knowledgeable, they can kind of help you walk through it. Our 2 guys that came up from Eureka Truss were incredible. They were super patient. They were giving us all the pointers. They were laughing at us because my life was in danger at least 10 times during this process, but it was completely worth it. Next is going to be all of the steel, which I want to say was right around $1,500. I'll put the exact number there. Like I said, these numbers have just kind of escaped my brain after I've already written the checks and put it in the rearview mirror. But the biggest thing that you're going to find is the time. If you have the time to do this, like I said, I'm guessing, I would say a solid 2 weeks of 10, 12-hour days went into this project, but in my opinion, it's completely worth it. Up here in Montana, getting people to do this kind of work is very expensive. If you're able and handy, I highly recommend it. What do you guys think of this structure? What do you guys think of the Adventure Built World Headquarters up here in Northwest Montana? Because I think it's amazing. I love this thing. I can't wait to get it a little bit more finished if that's what we decide to do. My wife and I are still in talks if we're gonna finish this. Not enclose it completely, but just do that front fascia, because I don't think we'll ever enclose it fully, because it's a place to park things, and it's a place to work on things, and a place to make great content for all you guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.